What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Film Jump with Jesse and Chris. What's up, dude?
Not much, not much. Some release date changes going on that we're
Yeah.
going to talk about here.
Yeah, lots changed since our last little recording.
Yeah, highly anticipated Godzilla Kong New Empire moves up 2 weekends, so it is now March 29th instead of April 12th. That's a good thing. People online were expressing concerns because it's closer to Ghostbusters and all this other stuff, but it gets Easter weekend, which is big. If anyone's curious, last year Sonic got Easter weekend. Not that this is going to be...
No, Mario did.
Oh, I said Sonic, right? Yeah, Mario got Easter weekend last year, and it made $1.5 billion. Godzilla Kong's not going to do that, but Easter weekend's big, and then it's going to get to roll right through all of April, which is a wasteland.
So, did anything else get affected by that?
Well, Ghostbusters was originally on the March 29th, then Ghostbusters went a week earlier to evade it, March 22nd. Mickey 17 was in there, got pulled off the schedule. And you said that was for some awards reasons, possibly?
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere on Twitter that it was that they might want to drop it at Cannes, the film festival.
Okay.
And that's
Cannes.
Cannes.
Yeah, exactly. Cannes.
That's the Bong Joon-ho film. Highly anticipated, especially after Parasite. Yeah. The man's got a great filmography.
The mystery Robert Pattinson movie.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think it's a good switch for Godzilla Kong because April's always kind of a bit of a wasteland. And so if you're the big hot movie, last year, to put it in perspective, the film that came out before Easter weekend was Dungeons and Dragons, which flopped, and then Mario opened on Easter weekend and totally dominated. So Godzilla Kong now gets to be that big Easter movie, and it'll get to kind of ride through April, which will be kind of empty, which is even crazier this year because this year's even more empty than most years. I saw articles about AMC looking to try and take out loans or this or that to try and avoid possibly going under, possibly shutting down locations and things of that nature. So it's going to be very interesting. Everyone always likes to say like, oh, this is going to kill the theater industry. It's like the theater industry survived COVID, but it's definitely going to be a rough year for theaters. As someone who used to work in one, it's definitely going to be a rough year for theaters.
Don't be shy. You ran that thing.
Yeah. Worked in initially and then was management for 6 years. And part of the reason I got out of the theaters was because it did not look like a very, very prosperous future. The thing I would always say was, in 5 years, are there going to be more movie theaters in America or fewer theaters? And my answer was like, well, I think there'll be fewer. Maybe not a lot. Like, it's not like this is going to be here and then 5,000 theaters are going to close overnight. But 5 years from now, there are 100 or 200 less, 500 less. 5 years from that, 100 less, 200 less. Yeah. It just didn't seem good, which is a shame because we're big theater guys.
Not to mention, I think, being a huge film buff and working in the theater, I don't think, from what I understand and what you've told me, is not as great as somebody might really think it is. It's not something to get into if you actually are a huge film buff, a cinephile, and you want to be in and around it. It kind of is the opposite. It's like working at a food place and you love that food. Eventually, you're going to get tired of it. You're eating it all the time. And I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. It did start to make me hate a lot of movies because whenever there was a big, huge movie that you knew was going to perform well coming, you would almost hate that it was on its way because you knew that was going to be a lot of tough work, a lot of crowds, a lot of nonsense. When you were excited for the film, it was good because you were going to get to see it. But then if it was a movie you hated but you still knew it was going to be huge, or a movie you weren't interested but you still knew it was going to be huge, it was always frustrating because it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm not looking forward to this piece of crap and I'm going to get armies of people coming into the theater causing all their ruckus going to see this movie that I'm not even interested in. So yeah, it was kind of like it kind of did turn you against like screw Hollywood, screw all this stuff they're releasing. I don't care if it burns down. It's like now that I'm out of theaters, it's like, oh, I just see the movies I want to see, and it's so much more relaxing. I never have to worry about what's going to give me hell for the weekend or anything like that. So it was nice.
Yeah, well, plus you're not getting spoiled by minute here, 10 seconds here with movies that you kind of want to wait till the full experience.
Exactly. In the early days when I wasn't management, you go in and you're doing theater checks and quality checks.
Sounds like the John Wick universe.
And auditorium checks. Before you're in management, you are seeing potentially huge spoilers and parts of the movie you don't want to see because you're going into the theaters for this or that or the other. Once you are management, you you're not doing as much in theater stuff nearly as much. You're not always stepping in and looking in, so you're getting spoiled basically like 95% less. I remember I had like some great jokes of Deadpool were spoiled for me because I was still in my my supervisor days for that, so I was making my rounds into the auditoriums, and so some of the good jokes of Deadpool were ruined. But it was always tough. The first weekend was always hard because it's like I don't want to go into those auditoriums for those big movies, you know. So
All right, well, let's move on to our next topic.
sure.
I recently heard some news about Tom Cruise.
Yeah, he signed a deal with Warner Brothers, and some to develop new and franchise films. It's interesting because he's typically a Paramount guy.
Yep.
And then if you're looking at all of the news that's been swirling, within the next year, some people expect that potentially Warner Brothers and Paramount might merge. Potentially Comcast Universal might buy Warner Brothers, or potentially I suppose Comcast Universal could buy Paramount, but people were like, why would Tom Cruise do this? It's like, well, he wins anyway. If Warner Brothers merges with Universal, then Tom Cruise still wins from that deal. If Paramount and Warner Brothers merge, he still wins because he's already set up with Paramount as his main studio. His movie that's supposed to film in space is a Universal production. So it's like he's done films with all three of those. So any mixed matching of merging and purchasing of all of those will work out well for Tom Cruise.
My only request is that we get a sequel to Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe they can finally call it All You Need Is Kill, like the manga, you
Yeah.
know? But what someone also pointed out, it's like Tom Cruise is north of 60. It's like, how many big original IPs and franchises are they going to, he's almost at the age where even for him, it's like he's going to have to be in those kind of like general roles and those kind of mentor leadership kind of spots. Like he's not doing the Tom Cruise running half the movie thing.
I mean, he is, but you know what? I kind of noticed his age more than I ever have before in Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Yeah, like it's not that he hit a wall because he's in his 60s now, but it's like, the type of thing that normally happens to a lot of guys in their mid 30s or late 30s, like it's happening. It's finally catching up to Tom Cruise in his 60s. So it's like it can't be forever. Like I'm sure he'll be doing crazy stuff until he's physically incapable of doing it or one of his stunts kills him. But he's gonna have to like sunset into a different kind of role eventually, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. It'll be a 75-year-old action movie star still riding horses and whatever,
Speaking of things going on forever,
Yeah.
next topic here. I hear some news about Jon Favreau and Star Wars.
Yeah, so Jon Favreau has been announced to be directing a Mandalorian and Grogu Star Wars movie that evidently is going to be the first or the next Star Wars movie that gets made. There's all this talk about a Rey movie that has a director and Dave Filoni's going to get a movie and all this stuff. I guess all that stuff's just irons in the oven or whatever, but from what it really seems like, because there was rumors a few months ago that people are ignoring now, that people were saying that season 4 of Mandalorian was potentially going to become a movie, and then you get a Jon Favreau Mandalorian movie announced.
Yeah.
I think they took whatever scripts and whatever stuff was shaping for Mandalorian season 4, and they're just formatting that into a movie for Jon Favreau. Whatever happens, I hope they give Jon Favreau a blank check. I hope they let him do anything he wants to do. Let him bring back any actress or character or CGI cameo or legacy role that he wants to bring. No one would complain about having Gina Carano back. No one would complain about having Luke Skywalker and Han and Leia on screen together, use that deep fake technology. That stuff could be awesome.
Yeah.
And then on X today, it drops it. That might be the start of a trilogy. So who knows? Who knows where it's going to go?
Yeah. Some people, express some concern that it might be called The Mandalorian and Grogu. It's not going to be called Mandalorian and Grogu.
And look, maybe that will be the official title, but we're so early now. It's like that's very, very likely a working title. That is very unlikely to be the official, Mandalorian and Grogu, a Star Wars story.
Or,
I seriously doubt that.
It's
gonna be something else. They might just call it The Mandalorian. They might call it something else. They might give it a unique name, like for diehard Star Wars fans, if they dropped like Heir to the Empire or something like that, It would mean a lot to certain Star Wars fans, even though this seems separated from the kind of Thrawn stuff that Filoni's doing with the Ahsoka series and all that whatnot.
Yeah.
And this seems separate from the Filoni Mandoverse movie also. This just seems like it's Mando Season 4 being turned into a movie. One reason that some people brought up as to why it's happening, they're like, well, they realize they're not making money off Disney Plus and these seasons are so expensive. and they're not getting the return as streaming. So it's like, as a theatrically released movie with this budget, it would get the kind of financial return and a better return on investment for what they're putting into it. Because it's like, you can't drop $200 million on a season of She-Hulk like they did. That was a total disaster. That makes no sense, So maybe this will work out. We'll see.
Disney's been making a series of bad choices when it comes to a lot of their bigger, properties and stuff. And I am not so hot on Star Wars anymore, but I am definitely willing to give Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni a chance. They seem to...
Less so Dave Filoni, more so Jon Favreau.
Yeah. They seem to still kind of have that respect for the franchise, but we'll see. We'll see what they actually what they do.
Him as the director, and it depends on how blank of a check they gave him. I hope he hardballed him. I hope he's like, look, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, and you're going to leave me alone.
Yeah.
Because if you look at, I'll lay out, 4 seasons of television, or 5 seasons of television here. Mando Season 1, Mando Season 2, Book of Boba Fett, Mando Season 3, and Ahsoka. They get progressively worse as you go.
Yeah.
Season 1 and 2 of Mando are great, and then Book of Boba's worse.
With 2 episodes that are great of Mando.
Mando Season 3 is worse, and then Ahsoka is borderline unwatchable, and Jon Favreau's involvement and control was lesser after the first 2 seasons of Mando. He was progressively kind of pushed away, and Dave Filoni was more steering the ship, and he doesn't know how to steer it. I mean, so if it's back to Favreau calling the shots and Favreau asserting a kind of masculine energy over someone like Dave Filoni, maybe we can get something great, but, we'll see.
Yeah, well, I think that's going to cover it for the news anyways. Let us know what you think. Are you guys excited for Jon Favreau's project, or are you as excited as us about Godzilla Kong, the new Empire dropping? Yeah. Let us know in the comments. Follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. All right, cool.
Yep, that's all.
All right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
You are not in Kansas anymore. You are on Pandora.
No, I'm simply saying that life finds a way.